3, 2, 1.
The media play propagandists for Hamas. Seattle passes the Amazon tax, and the Trump administration cracks down on leakers. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Oh man, so much news to get to today. But first, I want to let you know, The Ben Shapiro Show, if you missed it, we're headed to a live venue. This August, I'm recording my podcast live in Dallas and Phoenix, and you'll be able to see me in person and join in an audience Q&A. And we'll also be doing a special VIP event beforehand with them signing a meet and greet for 200 superfans. So visit dailywire.com/events for more information. Presale tickets actually are on sale today at 10 a.m. local time. So if you're a Daily Wire premium subscriber, you get access to seats until May 17th at 10 p.m. And that's when general admission go on sale and tickets will run out fast. If you're not a subscriber, this is indeed the best time to subscribe so you can get one of these tickets in advance. Again, visit dailywire.com/events for more info. That's dailywire.com/events for more info. In August, Dallas and Phoenix, be there, be square, dailywire.com/events and subscribe so you can get those early tickets. And we can meet, we can hang out. We'll be best friends. It'll just be awesome. Now, as I say, there's lots of news. There's lots of news breaking. But before I get to any of that news, first I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at ZipRecruiter. So, your business needs better employees. How do I know? Because you are a business, and all businesses need better employees. Well, if you're seeking to upgrade your existing employee base, or if you're just looking for a new hire, ZipRecruiter is the place for you. They learn what you're looking for, they identify people with the right experience, and they invite them to apply to your job. These invitations have actually revolutionized how you can find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive, so you never miss a great match. We use ZipRecruiter here at the Daily Wire when we're looking for new folks or when we're looking to get rid of particular producers. Don't sleep too easy, guys. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. Use that Daily Wire so they know we sent you. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. Make sure that you go and check them out. And again, use that /dailywire so you can try them for free. The best way to find your new employee, ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. All right, so the media are awful. They're awful. Now, I've been highly critical of the phrase fake news because I feel like it's overused. I think there are a lot of people out there who use the phrase fake news to mean news I don't like. But what we have seen over the past 48 hours has been absolutely fake news from the mainstream media who are just parroting lines from Hamas. At this point, they are just parroting lines from one of the world's worst terror groups. It is obvious and it is disgusting. Really horrifying. I mean, it's nothing new. In 2014, I was on CNN in the middle of the Gaza war, and I actually told the CNN anchor to her face that Hamas was, in fact, a propaganda wing of, that CNN was a propaganda wing of Hamas. Because it was clear at that time when they were claiming that Israel was indiscriminately targeting civilians, even as Hamas was hiding its headquarters under a hospital and hiding weapons in mosques and schools. See, Hamas has a certain goal. Their goal is to make headlines. They know they're never going to be able to defeat Israel in any military fashion. And they also know that Israel has no interest in going into the Gaza Strip again and deposing them because then Israel has to run the place, and they don't want to do that. So Hamas has it kind of easy. All they have to do is make sure their own population doesn't rebel against them. And the way to do that is by attacking Israel every so often and getting a lot of glowing press from the world. And the world is happy to give that glowing press because the world despises Israel for the same reason that the world despises America. They see Israel as a colonizing power in the Middle East, even though the history of Israel shows that the Jews have been there continuously for 3,000 years. No, according to the left, Israel is a colonial imperialist power in the Middle East, stomping its boot all over the faces of the people who were there before. That is historically inaccurate, but that is the story that is told by folks on the left wing. And so anytime they can say that Israel is acting illegitimately, they will do that. And that's exactly what they have been doing over the past 48 hours. So first, I want to start with this headline from the New York Daily News. So the New York Daily News, this is 15. The New York Daily News put out this headline. This was their front page today. This is a blood libel. Okay, for people who don't know what the blood libel is, a blood libel is the old anti-Semitic canard that Jews kill Christian children and then use their blood in Passover matzahs. It was used as an excuse to murder Jews in pogroms for legitimately centuries. And that's what this is right here, this Daily News cover. Because the idea here is that the Jews are just happy to kill non-Jews. That's the idea. So here's what it says. It's a picture of Ivanka Trump looking very pretty. She was there at the dedication of the new U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. She's dressed to the nines, and the picture is her gesturing to her left. Okay, and what she was actually gesturing to was a placard that is on the building that says dedicated by U.S. President Donald Trump. Okay, but the Daily News has put a picture over that. And the picture they've put over that is a picture of some wounded Palestinian being dragged away by other Palestinians. And then in giant headline, it says, Daddy's little ghoul. daddy's little ghoul. So it's Ivanka Trump's fault that Hamas has now put up thousands of people to storm the Israeli border in an attempt to get people killed, specifically so the media will cover it this way. So it says, daddy's little ghoul, 55 slaughtered in Gaza, but Ivanka all smiles at Jerusalem embassy unveil. F you, Daily News. F you. I mean, this is a blood libel. It is. It's saying Ivanka Trump, who is Jewish, Ivanka, just like all those other Jews, look at her. She doesn't care if Palestinians get killed. She doesn't care if innocents are having their blood shed. She doesn't care about any of those things. And that's what's happening. If you look at the media coverage today, it is all that. It's all, look at these innocent Palestinians being slaughtered wholesale by the Juden. It's just terrible. How could the Jews do something quite so awful? Now you're getting this routine from Stephen Colbert, right? So here's Stephen Colbert mocking Donald and Ivanka and Jared Kushner, also Jewish, over the Jerusalem embassy opening.
Now, the president couldn't be there himself because, you know, the angry people. So, instead, he sent Peace Treaty Barbie and Collusion Ken. Jared explained that the embassy was good for peace.
When there is peace in this region, we will look back upon this day and remember that the journey to peace started with a strong America recognizing the truth.
Okay, well, isn't that funny? Because they're making fun of his high voice by piping in somebody with a higher voice. Oh, it's so funny. The entire media yesterday, stuff on split screen. They were putting on split screen the situation in Jerusalem with the situation in Gaza. Now, let's be real about the situation in Gaza. Hamas has organized for weeks these riots at the border in an attempt dramatically to create footage that they can then use as an excuse to claim that Israel is the great oppressor in the Middle East. It is produced. It is created. This is not a spontaneous uprising. It's not a spontaneous peaceful protest. This is, in fact, a series of riots directed at invading the Israeli border. And this isn't just me saying this, okay? This is top members of Hamas. Hamas is the government in the Gaza Strip. Notice that yesterday, amidst all of this chaos on the Gaza Strip, there was nothing happening in Judea and Samaria in the West Bank. Nothing. Palestinian Authority, they weren't doing this. So there was nobody at the border. Nothing was happening. In Jordan, nothing was happening. In Egypt, nothing was happening. In Saudi Arabia, nothing was happening. In Iran, nothing was happening. In Syria, nothing was happening. In Lebanon, nothing was happening, which suggests that maybe this was being produced for the cameras by Hamas. How do I know that it was being produced by the cameras, for the cameras by Hamas? Well, because the Palestinians have been saying this, because Hamas has been saying this. So, for example, let me play for you a video of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Okay, this is from early April. It's April 6th. Okay, I'm going to translate. I have the translation in front of me from memory. Okay, here is Yahya Sinwar, who is the head of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. He's the governor. He's the guy who's the head of the government there. It says, we have come out today, and we will come out also in the next few days. Our people and our boys will surprise the entire world with what they have in store. Let them wait for our big push. We will take down the border with Israel, and we will tear out their hearts from their bodies. Peaceful protest, guys. It's just a peaceful protest. And if you point out that Hamas is a violent terrorist group and that the people of the Gaza Strip elected Hamas in 2006 to lead them, this is impolitic. You can't mention this. This is a bunch of women and children and babies who were sitting peacefully, and then the Israelis started shooting them, if you pay attention to the mainstream media coverage. By the way, it's not just Yahya Sinwar. This was yesterday, a Hamas official on Al Jazeera explaining that these were not peaceful protests. These are not peaceful protests. This is from Al Jazeera Network, a senior Hamas official named Mahmoud al-Zahar. Again, I'll read you the translation. It says, when you have weapons that are being wielded by men who are able to prevent the strongest army in the region from entering the Gaza Strip for 51 days, and were able to capture or kill soldiers of that army, is this really peaceful resistance? This is not peaceful resistance. Me saying this. Has the option of armed struggle diminished? Is again a Hamas official? No. On the contrary, it is growing and developing. That's clear. So when we talk about peaceful resistance, we are deceiving the public. This is peaceful resistance bolstered by a military force and by security agencies, and enjoying tremendous popular support. Okay, so Hamas is very obvious about what they're doing, folks. They're not hiding the ball here. The media are actively complicit in this anti-Israel blood libel, in this anti-Jewish blood libel. Okay, they are actively complicit at this point in what amounts to a blood libel against Jews, suggesting that Jews are indiscriminately shooting people en masse. It is a lie. It is not true. Okay, here is tape of Palestinians attempting to breach the border fence. Israel has been dropping leaflets all over Gaza saying, do not try to approach the border fence or you will be shot. That's because they've been using the border fence, trying to break through the border fence in order to kill Jews. Yesterday, they were saying openly, there were Palestinians who were telling the press openly what their goal was. It was so funny. The press was trying to say, well, you guys don't really mean any of this stuff, right? You don't really mean any of this stuff. On NPR, one of the NPR anchors asked a Gazan with a kite with a swastika on it why he was flying a kite with a swastika on it. And he said, the Jews go crazy when you mention Hitler. So Steve Inskeep, who's the anchor, he asked if he knows the Israelis are using the swastikas to discredit Gazans. Right, so NPR trying to change the story into, well, they're selectively choosing your kite with the swastika. That's what they're doing here. So what does the Gazan say? He says, it's what we mean. We want them to burn. They're not being subtle. There's no subtlety here. Okay, the Gaza Strip is filled with people who want Israel destroyed and want to kill Jews. Okay, and those people have elected people in the Hamas government in order to do just that. If they don't like what's going on in the Gaza Strip, well, they're supposedly supposed to have elections. Now, there are a lot of people who are peace-loving, I'm sure, in the Gaza Strip, but not the people who were approaching the border yesterday. Those are not people who are interested in peace, and they're certainly interested in being used as human shields by Hamas. There's no question that this is what Hamas is doing. They've admitted this. Okay, here's this tape of Palestinians attempting to breach the border wall. Okay, you can see that these guys are bringing sandbags toward the border wall. And now you see this kid. They're sending out kids and teenagers to bring tires to the border wall and then burn the tires as a distraction, as a smokescreen. And then you can see all these guys hiding behind the hill. They've been trying to go up to the border fence with bolt cutters and trying to cut through the border fence. This is one of the things that they've been doing. Also, Israel had experienced yesterday a serious problem. Okay, does this look like peaceful protest to you? It's not peaceful protest. You see these giant clouds of black smoke that are coming from tire fires that are being used to obscure the terrorist activities of people along the border. Okay, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, they tweeted out tape of yesterday a shooting attack on Israeli forces. You're told that Israel was firing on unarmed people. The IDF tweeted out yesterday afternoon, the IDF received intelligence that Hamas operatives were preparing to cross through the security fence from northern Gaza. IDF special forces arrived at the scene, and 8 armed terrorists hurled pipe bombs and grenades at the soldiers and the security fence. And they've made the tape available for anyone to look at online. But we're being told by the media that Israel is the real problem here. Israel obviously is the serious issue. Okay, all of this is just nonsense. It's just nonsense. And I have more evidence that it's nonsense in just 1 second. First, I want to say thanks to new sponsors. Okay, our new sponsors are the folks over at Betterment. So I'm a person who has a financial advisor. I have a financial advisor because I'm not the person who wants to sit there and check through my investments and try to figure out what's a good investment, what's a bad investment. Also, just like anyone else, I have a tendency to overreact to market conditions. Well, this is why you need a professional investment advisor who is going to make sure that your best interests are taken into account. Betterment is the largest online financial advisor designed to help customers build wealth, plan for retirement, achieve their financial goals. And it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to have a financial advisor now. They have low fees. Hidden costs are nowhere to be found at Betterment. No matter who you are or how much money you invest, you get everything for one low, transparent management fee. So they're not making money off of you trading in a bunch of your stock. Instead, you're paying one low, transparent management fee. The advice is in your best interest. They are your fiduciary, which means they make recommendations in your best interest. They're not incentivized to sell certain funds. They're not trying to sell you on anything. This isn't one of those boiler room movies. These are folks who are there to advise you on the best investments to make, and they don't make money off of selling all of these recommended funds. Then they have tools to help you understand how you're doing as well. They offer personalized advice, a suite of tools to help you know whether you're on track to hit your investing goals or get the retirement you want. And when you need it, their tools and guidance can help you get on track. Now listen, investing involves risk, but one of the ways to help mitigate that risk is by working with an investment advisor. And the folks over at Betterment do a really great job. The Ben Shapiro Show listeners right now can get up to 1 year of management for free. Up to 1 year of management for free. For more information, visit betterment.com/Shapiro. That's betterment.com/Shapiro. Again, betterment.com/Shapiro. There's a reason that you should be looking at Betterment. There's a reason you should have a financial advisor. I have one. You should have one too. Betterment.com/Shapiro. And you can get up to 1 year managed for free. So again, betterment.com/Shapiro. Use that /Shapiro so they know that we sent you. Okay, so again, all of the evidence is that Hamas is using human shields, that Hamas is attempting to create headlines, and they're doing just that. They're doing just that. They're happy to do just that. Okay, according to the Israeli security agency, Yahya Aishli is a Hamas member arrested on April 29th. He told them that Hamas was instructing its activists to cut the fence, that they want their activity to be seen, quote, in the international media as a popular uprising and not as a violent action led by its militants, and that Hamas members are embedded in the general population for purposes of public relations. Another Palestinian terrorist captured by Israel said that, quote, Hamas militants in civilian clothes encourage children to try to cross the fence in order to steal IDF equipment. In other words, Hamas is using human shields. They're using women. They're using children. They're trying to breach the fence. Their plan here is that the operatives are not going to breach the fence. They're going to let women and children do it, and then they're going to rush through into Israel and attempt to kill as many Jews as possible. Never mind that Hamas has participated in an ongoing war with Israel since its election in 2006. They fought Israel in 2006, 2008, 2012, 2014, and now. Okay, never mind that. It must be the Israelis. It must be Ivanka Trump. This must be Ivanka Trump's fault. You know, before Ivanka Trump, none of this was happening. Before Ivanka Trump, it wasn't like Hamas was an evil terrorist group trying to kill people. It wasn't like they committed homicide bombings trying to murder people. No, they would never do anything like that. That would be crazy. They're nice people. They're really great. By the way, here's some of the protesters chanting "Death to America" and "Death to the Zionists" yesterday. Very nice people. That means death to America. Means death to the Zionists. Yeah, just charming folks. By the way, good indicator that you're not involved in normal protesting when you've got your face covered like that, because you don't want the Israeli troops to know exactly who you are. Well, the White House did the right thing here. The White House said the Hamas is to blame. So here's Raj Shah from the White House doing the right thing. What a difference between the Trump administration, the Obama administration. The Obama administration constantly looking for an excuse to blame the only democracy in the Middle East for defending itself. But Raj Shah not doing that at the White House. Good for him.
Well, we believe that Hamas is responsible for these tragic deaths. That their rather cynical exploitation of the situation is what's leading to these deaths, and we want them to stop.
And that obviously is true. Jared Kushner said the same thing yesterday at the Jerusalem embassy. Everybody was aware that this was going on in Gaza. And Kushner said, listen, the people who are provoking violence are the problem. That would be Hamas.
As we have seen from the protests of the last month and even today, those provoking violence are part of the problem and not part of the solution.
So the Trump administration has its head screwed on straight. The media, of course, are happy to parrot whatever propaganda comes down the line. I'm going to show you some of that propaganda in just a second, because it really is quite stunning. We'll begin with NBC's Peter Alexander. So Peter Alexander, he asks at the White House, does the U.S. approve of Israel killing Palestinians at will? Those are his words. Killing Palestinians at will. I will show you in a second that Israel is not killing Palestinians at will, but it doesn't matter. NBC thinks they are, because NBC is an awful outlet when it comes to its coverage of Israel. Here is, again, Peter Alexander, White House reporter, questioning Raj Shah about Israel's activity.
So to be clear, does the U.S. not agree with the French that Israeli authorities should exercise discretion and restraint?
We believe that Hamas is responsible for what's going on.
So there's no responsibility beyond that on the Israeli authorities. Kill at will.
What I'm saying is that we believe that Hamas, as an organization, is engaged in cynical action that's leading to these deaths.
Kill at will? Kill at will. So apparently there have been about 60 people killed. Those statistics are being put out by Hamas, so you never know which ones are real and which ones are not. The same thing happened during the 2014 Gaza war, when Hamas put out all sorts of statistics about numbers of civilians who are killed. It turned out the vast majority of the people who were killed were actually terrorists or terrorist associates. So here are some of the pictures of the people who were killed yesterday in Gaza. Okay, this is from Bjorn Stritzel, who's a reporter in the region. Gaza. First martyrdom pictures coming in. 10 killed were members of Hamas's internal security apparatus. Why, it's so indiscriminate. It's just crazy. It's so indiscriminate. 60 people were killed and 10 were members of Hamas. Because I know that in America, if you shot 60 people indiscriminately, 10 would be members of a terrorist group, obviously. I mean, let's be real about this. If you were to just randomly mow down a bunch of people, clearly, at least 1/5, 1/6 of them would be actual terrorists. Maybe it's not that indiscriminate, gang. Islamic Jihad, by the way, 3 of them were members of Islamic Jihad as well. And they're still identifying some of the other folks. There were headlines yesterday about a woman whose baby died, an 8-month-old baby died, after the area she was in had tear gas. Why are you bringing an 8-month-old baby to an area with tear gas? Why in the world would you do that? I'm sorry, that's under any circumstance, that's evil. Okay, to bring an 8-month-old baby to a place where you know tear gas is going to be fired is the wrong thing to. Why would you endanger the life of your child to stand out there on behalf of Hamas? It's just crazy. But look how the media cover this stuff. Okay, again, Hamas does this for a living. This is their shtick. It's all for the cameras. Okay, it's legitimately all for the cameras, and you can see that it's all for the cameras. Do we have that tape of the guy with the crutches? Do you have the tape of the dude with the crutches? I don't think so. Okay, so there's tape that is going around today of a Palestinian doing. We see one of these pretty much every Gaza war. A Palestinian who's approaching the fence on crutches, and then the Israelis start targeting him, and he puts down the crutches and he starts running as fast as possible. Okay, amazing. He's been cured. It's a miracle. Thank you, Jesus. His crutches, he just threw them aside. It was a miracle. Or it turns out that this sort of stuff happens routinely because the Palestinians understand, Palestinian leadership understands the value of a picture. I remember about 10, 15 years ago during, I think it was the Second Intifada, there was a very famous thing where there was a march where a Hamas member was supposed to have died, and they were marching with his body, and then the body fell off of the stretcher and got up and started walking because the person wasn't dead at all. They just knew the cameras were on them. This sort of stuff, this sort of staging happens routinely. It has been happening for 20 years in this particular area. The media don't want to cover any of this because the media want a narrative. And the media's narrative is this is all Trump's fault. Trump is creating the chaos, ignoring the fact that this has been going on for literally months at this point, years at this point. They want to make sure that Israel is seen as the perpetrator, even though Israel is not the perpetrator. Every country has to defend its border. Particularly a country has to defend its border when Hamas is spending its spare cash, and not just its spare cash, all of its cash, building terror tunnels into Israel to kidnap Israeli children and Israeli soldiers and murder as many people as possible. But apparently Israel's the bad guy. Here's an MSNBC contributor, Eddie Glaude, who yesterday was very upset about all the people dead in Gaza.
While Donald Trump is doing this and may look for a deflection, it's not necessarily going to help the midterms.
All of that's important, and all of those babies are dead. All of those people are dead. They're dead. And we're talking about racehorses. The politics. There are a lot of folks who are dead today.
Why don't we talk about why all those folks are dead? Why don't we talk about why all those folks are dead? Instead, we're just going to shout over and over, those people are dead, and then point to the Jews who, again, have not been shooting anyone over there until the Palestinians decided they were going to rush the border. Okay, they announced this in advance. This was all planned. To pretend otherwise is a lie, and the media are lying to you. The New York Times is lying to you. Fareed Zakaria, all these people are lying to you. They're lying to you when they say that this was spontaneous. They're lying to you when they say this is peaceful. It was not peaceful. It was not spontaneous. It was organized by Hamas with the explicit purpose of attempting to generate these sorts of headlines. And the New York Times, the worst of the bunch. Okay, I have to read you this New York Times headline. So, the New York Times is now saying that the United Nations is condemning Israel. Ooh, the United Nations. Oh, the vaunted United Nations. The United Nations Human Rights Office issued a series of statements targeting the Israeli government, and of course the New York Times immediately parroted them. They tweeted out a picture of a woman hugging her dead baby. Again, this is the baby that was killed by tear gas because this woman decided to obey the commands of Hamas and go hang out where tear gas was being fired. Genius. And the New York Times tweets out, "Enough is enough. UN human rights officials said that Israel's use of lethal force against Palestinian demonstrators was unjustified and could amount to grave breaches of international law." And then they quote a bunch of people from the UN. They quote Rupert Colville, who's the spokesman for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. "We condemn the appalling deadly violence in Gaza yesterday. We're extremely worried about what may happen later today. We urge maximum restraint. Enough is enough." Now, the New York Times won't tell you who is actually on the UN Human Rights Council. They won't actually tell you who's on it. Okay, it's 15 African states, 12 Asian states, 5 Eastern European states, 11 Latin American and Caribbean states, Western Europe and other states, 10. The African group is chaired by the representative from Morocco, the Asian group is chaired by the representative from Saudi Arabia, and the Eastern European group is chaired by the representative from Azerbaijan. So just a bunch of countries that love human rights. All 3 of those places are dictatorships, by the way. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Al Hussein, is a member of the Jordanian royal family. So they won't tell you any of these things. They won't tell you the Human Rights Council has issued 135 critical resolutions from 2006 to 2016, and 50% of them were directed at Israel. They won't tell you that in the New York Times. They'll just parrot all of the verbiage of the New York Times, of the United Nations, suggesting that this was somehow a major statement about Israeli policy. Israel has not farted in the last 70 years without the UN condemning them. That is just the way the UN works. The UN, 1/3 of the UN is staffed by the Organization of Islamic Countries, okay, which is like 58, 60 countries, all of whom disagree with the existence of the state of Israel to begin. The New York Times never reports that when they talk about the UN. Now, the UN is a vaunted organization. I love this from Fareed Zakaria as well, speaking of media bias. Fareed Zakaria trying to claim, of course, that the Jerusalem embassy move is what provoked everything that happened in Gaza. And he says that the embassy move was a major concession to Israel. It was a major concession with nothing in return. The irony of this statement is beyond words.
It was a very non-strategic move, by which I mean to say Trump is supposed to be the master of the art of the deal. It's very rare to make a major concession to one side without getting something from the other. This has been a prize. Look, there are 86 countries that recognize Israel. All their embassies are in Tel Aviv. This is a very big gift to Israel. You would normally imagine that if it were part of a larger strategic plan, you would ask the Israelis in return to do a certain number of things, settlement freezes, whatever it is.
Okay, I love this, that somehow the United States is supposed to use the movement of the embassy to Jerusalem as leverage against Israel. I don't remember Fareed Zakaria complaining too much about the Iran deal, in which we handed over $150 billion to the Iranian government in exchange for nothing, in exchange for zero things, a promise that they would be nice. I don't remember Fareed Zakaria being quite that critical, but you acknowledge that Israel's capital is Israel's capital and that Jerusalem is sovereign Jewish territory and has been since its inception. And suddenly, so then we have to talk about real trade-offs here. We have to talk about the political expediency of moving the embassy to Jerusalem. The anti-Israel bias in the media is palpable, and we have to examine why that bias exists in the first place. I think that the bias exists for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you look at media coverage of Israel up till 1967, it was very strongly in favor of Israel. That was because the Jews were seen as the victims until 1967. So the media was very sympathetic to the plight of the Jews after the Holocaust, and they believed that Israel should become a state, and Israel was a thriving country that was moving in the direction of socialism. In 1967, Israel not only defeats its enemies, but destroys its enemies. Right? In the Six-Day War, Israel pushes Egypt all the way back to Cairo. Israel pushes into Jordan. Israel pushes into Syria. Israel pushes into Lebanon. It's an amazing military feat. Okay? All of that was incredible. And the left turns on Israel because now Israel is seen as the great victimizer. Suddenly, Israel is a westernized country that is moving toward the United States and not toward Russia. It is not a coincidence that the Russian government, the USSR government, began pushing pan-Arabism and alliance with Russia at the same time that the Western left began turning against Israel. This is not a giant coincidence. In 1967, the media turns against Israel, and they have never turned back. And today, the argument is that Israel is the great oppressor in the Middle East, even though Israel is the only liberal country in the Middle East, the only country where, frankly, Muslims can live in democracy in the Middle East. There is no other Muslim democracy in the Middle East. Israel is the best Muslim democracy in the Middle East, and it's a Jewish country. Right? Nobody else is voting. Israel has people sitting in its parliament who believe in the destruction of the state of Israel. That's how much of a democracy Israel is. But Israel is the bad guy. Right? Israel is the only place in the Middle East where gays and lesbians can live in peace. Israel is the only place in the Middle East where Christians can live in a relative amount of peace. Okay, Coptic Christians in Egypt are having a real rough time right now. Okay, in Israel, you're doing just fine if you're Christian. And yet Israel is the target. And Israel's the target because, again, Western civilization, according to members of the hard left, is a bad thing that has created oppression. It's created an intersectional coalition of victim groups, and the Palestinians are among the victim groups. The Jews can no longer be among the victim groups because now the Jews are the victimizers, and therefore everything that happens in Israel doesn't matter if it's self-defense, doesn't matter if it's Israel just protecting its borders. Everything has to be Israel's fault. And the media are going to continue to parrot these lies. This is why it is incumbent on everyone to go out and do their own research. Take a look at the tape. You'll see what you'll see. Just a few minutes ago, the Palestinians blew up their own gas depot. They just blew up their own gas depot because they wanted to demonstrate that Israel was brutal. They blew up, the Palestinians, under the guise of Hamas, the Palestinians blew up a border crossing that was the #1 border crossing for shipping food into Gaza. And then they complain about the lack of food in Gaza. Okay, all of this is produced for the cameras, and the Western media make it more likely that Palestinians will die when they push this stuff. It's just, honestly, it's just terrible. It means more Palestinians will die. It means more civilians will die. It means that more Palestinians will believe that extremism and violence are a way to convince the Western media to pressure Israel. The media are really complicit in something quite horrible here. It really is just awful. Okay, so in just a second, I want to talk about the situation in Seattle, where apparently Seattle has passed what they call their head tax. But first, you're going to have to go over to dailywire.com and subscribe. So first, let me note that the tickets that are supposed to be on sale right now for the Ben Shapiro live events, that website is down for the moment. We are fixing it. We're on top of it. But subscribers, you should subscribe anyway, and you should grab that promo code because you have from now all the way until the 17th at 10 o'clock at night to get that exclusive deal where you can buy tickets to our live events. Plus, if you are a subscriber, you get to take part in the conversation where you get to ask questions to the execrable Michael Knowles. That episode is today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific.
Join me, Michael Knowles, and Alicia Krause on Tuesday, May 15th at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific for a new episode of The Conversation. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube for everyone to watch, but only Daily Wire subscribers can ask questions like these.
Is Hillary really your cousin?
I love that this is true.
Do you think history will ever be honest looking back on Obama's legacy?
Yes, but not anytime soon.
If the White House offered you a choice to spend the day with one of the Trumps, who would it be and why?
I'm going to say Mom. That's the safe answer.
Well, was it Melania or Ivanka?
Well,
what is your whiskey or bourbon of choice?
I prefer Scotch whiskey. It's my favorite kind of whiskey. But again, that's only for breakfast.
So Evan is asking, where do you get your dresses?
Subscribe to dailywire.com to ask questions and join the conversation on May 15th. I'll see you then.
Oh, God. So if you want to spend time with that, then go over and check it out at dailywire.com and subscribe. You can ask questions to Michael Knowles. Also, you can be part of our mailbag, which is happening on Friday. But the biggest thing, of course, is that if you subscribe right now, then you get early access to our events in Dallas and Phoenix. We're going to be adding new events to the calendar as well. And subscribers are going to have access to those events early, too. That's one of the magical benefits of becoming a subscriber. The annual subscription is $99 a year, not $9.99 a month. You get this as well, the Leftist Tears Hot or Cold Tumbler. It is fantastic. If you just want to listen later, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, subscribe, leave us a review. We always have great stuff coming out. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the nation.